So yesterday we started with chapter 5, Footprints Without Feet, right? This is the story about a scientist. What is the name of the scientist?
Griffin.
Griffin. What did he want to do?
He want to make a drugs who can make human body invisible.
He wanted to discover how to make the humans invisible. And in the course of this discovery, he had discovered some drugs, right? How did he experiment with those drugs?
He himself swallowed the drugs.
Right, he himself swallowed, he himself consumed the drugs, and as a result, what happened?
His drugs works and he became invisible.
He became transparent, he became like a glass, so he became invisible. When was he visible?
When he wears clothes, the clothes indicate that there is a man or human body.
Absolutely right. So when he wore clothes or any other garment, then he would become visible, right? His attire would indicate that there is some person. And the moment he would take off his clothes, he would become invisible, right? So the people around, if he was present around the people, then his very much existence would make the people perplexed. It would make them bewildered, it would make them confused as to what they are seeing, right? Who were the people? Who were the people, first of all? Those who were awed by his appearance, by his invisible appearance.
Ma'am, boys and
The two boys, right? What were they surprised to see?
ma'am, the footprints in mud.
Right. Muddy footprints of someone climbing down the stairs, right? But the man whose footprints were there could not be seen. Do explain the whole answer if you get this type of question. Okay? Yes. So Griffin, as a scientist, he had discovered the drug that could convert, that could transcend the man into transparent, into an invisible body, right? This is what he could do. Now, what do you think, that was he right if he had done it?
He was not right.
Okay. All right. If I say that yesterday I discussed the story of that atom bomb with you, was that scientist right who had created that atom bomb?
No.
No, he was not right. He was a scientist. He discovered something, but we are not happy at his discovery. Do you think atom bomb, the production of atom bomb should be called a success or an achievement?
No.
No, it should not be. Why?
It is destructive for us.
Right, it has been proved destructive. Anything which is produced, which is made, is to benefit the humans, benefit the environment. But what he had created, that atom bomb, that has proved to be destructive to the human existence itself. Right? Similarly, Griffin here discovers the drugs that makes the man invisible. Now, what is he doing in that invisible body? He is doing what he wants. Isn't it? Just as for example, the house in which he was living as a tenant, right? When he raised some objections, he got angry and he set his house on fire. He did not like his landlord, So he set his house on fire, right? He was feeling cold without the clothes, so he just entered a store. However, the store was closed, but he had been enjoying all the clothes, the food, the groceries, everything. Would you call it an honest effort?
No.
No, it is dishonest, right? So, what does it mean? If you are a scientist, then you do carry a sense of responsibility towards the mankind and society with you. The man who had made atom bomb thought of his fame, his success, but he never thought of the human society. He never thought of the countries. He just dropped the atom bomb, destroying the two cities. And he must be very happy that what he discovered, it really worked. But at the cost of what? So he had been successful in producing that destructive bomb, but he had not been a responsible scientist. The same thing is with Griffin. So whenever we have any profession, be it teaching, be it scientist, be it an industrialist, be it an environmentalist, be it medical professionals, anyone, we carry the responsibility, we have the responsibility of the mankind, of the society. So we should not do any such thing like Griffin, that is lawless, that is unlawful, that is against the human society. Right? Anyway, Griffin now goes to, because it was winter at its peak, it was very difficult for him to move around without the clothes. So he had just sneaked into a store. The store was closed at night, but he had a great time as he had been enjoying all kinds of food, groceries, and the clothes. And finally, he fell asleep on the pile of the quilts. Next morning, what happened? Next morning, he did not wake up on time. And by that time, the store had opened. The staff of the store had started coming. When they saw him, he panicked and he started running away to escape. Of course, he was being chased. But how he escaped? If he had not done this, he would have been caught. So how did he escape without being caught? He started, while he was running, he started taking off his clothes. So as a result, what happened? The people who had been chasing him, they found that the man suddenly disappeared because he had made himself invisible. He knew that he was there, but those people who had been chasing him, they did not know. I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now you start from here.
This time, he decided to try the stock of a theoretical company in the
Theatrical, from theater. Yes.
hope of finding not only clothes but also something that would hide the empty space above his shoulders. Shivering with cold, he hurried to Drury Lane, the center of the theatre world. He soon found a suitable shop. He made his way, invisible, upstairs and came out a little later, wearing bandages round his forehead, dark glasses, false nose, big bushy side whiskers, and a large hat. To escape without being seen, he callously attacked the shopkeeper from behind, after which he robbed him of all the money he could find.
Yes. Now, what it is, he had escaped the boys, those who had been chasing him when they found his muddy footprints, by becoming invisible. He set the landlord's house on fire and just moved away from there being invisible. So he had been selfish. He went to the store to keep himself warm, and this is what he enjoyed the night there, and he fed on some of the things. Then again, when he was about to be caught, that he escaped by making himself invisible. Now this time he decided to try the stock of a theatrical company. Now, this time he went to a shop, he went to a theatrical company. Theatrical company is the shop where all the accessories of theater that are available. Accessories of theater meaning accessories for those people who are participating in the stage dramas. Theater meaning stage dramas, right? Now, these people, these characters, when they participate in stage dramas, then for their makeup, for their makeover, they use artificial mustache, artificial beard, isn't it? The hair, the wigs, the colors, and lot many other things, right? So he went there. He hoped that he would find there not only clothes but some other accessories with the help of which he would hide himself. He would be wearing clothes, but his identity again would not be revealed. Shivering with cold, he decided that he would hide the empty space above his shoulders. Now, what is that empty space above his shoulders?
Head, neck.
Right, that is head to neck. Okay, his face, his ears. So, rest of the body was visible, but he did want to appear as a person, right? But how do he hide himself? Otherwise, he could not make himself visible. Why? Because he had already changed his body. He had already turned into an invisible man. The clothes he was wearing just to make himself visible. But when he was wearing clothes and more, he was appearing as a headless man. Why do you think he was appearing as a headless man when he was wearing clothes?
Because he hasn't wear anything on his head.
Right, because above his shoulders, he didn't wear anything. So he thought that he would go to theatrical company and he would get some accessories with which he would cover the empty space, meaning his head, face, neck, etc. Shivering with cold, he hurried to Drury Lane, where this theatrical shop was, the center of the theatre world. He soon found a suitable shop. He made his way invisible upstairs, came out a little later. Oh, he went to the shop. And what is it? He found all the accessories which he needed. Because after some time, he came out of the shop as a changed man. How? He had been wearing bandages around his forehead. How he covered, how he created his forehead? By putting some bandages, dark glasses on his eyes, false nose, and big bushy side whiskers. Side whiskers, that is the hair on both the sides of the cheeks, right? And a large hat. Now, this is how he appeared. If he leaves that shop, nobody would suspect him. To escape without being seen, he callously attacked the shopkeeper from behind. He didn't have the money to buy anything. He picked up everything, he put on everything, but he didn't pay. And once he comes out putting on all these things, he would definitely be caught by the shopkeeper. However, he had entered the shop secretly because he was invisible, but now he cannot be invisible because he is wearing the attire. So what he did, callously attacked the shopkeeper. Very formally, he attacked him quite recklessly. And then not only he attacked him from behind, but he had stolen all his money that the shopkeeper had with himself. Pocketing that money, he just fled from there. He just rushed from there. Right? So this scientist was not only a liar, not only fake, but don't you think he was dishonest also?
Yes, ma'am.
He was a thief also, right? Just for his own self motives, what not he is doing. He is turning unethical. He is not taking care of any rules, any moral responsibilities, any law, nothing. Very freely, he thinks that he has become invisible. He has got the whole freedom to do anything because he knows how to escape. He knows how to escape. He would turn invisible and he would escape. Right? Okay, yes, carry on, please. If any problem,
No, ma'am.
yes, carry on.
Eager to get away from crowded London, he took a train to the village of Iping, where he booked 2 rooms at the local inn. The arrival of a stranger at an inn in winter was in any case an unusual event. A stranger of such uncommon appearance set all tongues wagging. Mrs. Hall, the landlord's wife, made every effort to be friendly, but Griffin had no desire to talk and told her, "My reason for coming to Iping is a desire for solitude. I do not wish to be disturbed in my work. Besides, an accident has affected my face." Satisfied that her guest was an eccentric scientist, and in view of the fact that he had paid her in advance, Mrs. Hall was prepared to excuse his strange habits and irritable temper. But the stolen money did not last long, and presently Griffin had to admit that he had no more ready cash. He pretended, however, that he was expecting a check to arrive at any moment. Short, Shortly afterwards, a curious episode occurred. Very early in the morning, a clergyman and his wife were awakened by noises in the study. Creeping downstairs, they heard the chink of money being taken from the clergyman's desk. Without making any noise and with the poker grasped firmly in his hand, the clergyman flung open the door. "Surrender."
Yes. Now, what it is, the streets of London, they were crowded. He wanted to avoid the crowd because the more the people, the more the chances that the people would be suspicious about him, right? So he took a train to the village of Iping. This is a small village in England, in the Sussex County of England, right? There he hired 2 rooms at a local inn. Inn is just like a guest house, right? Now, when this man, it was extreme winter time, and this man had hired 2 rooms, it was something unusual. Why unusual? Because in the European countries, usually in the winter season, the people do not go out for holidaying. That is the summer because summer is very short. So this is in summers when they go out. So in the winter, if a tourist or if somebody is coming and hiring 2 rooms for some time, it was unusual. So, however, the landlord and the landlady of the inn, Mrs. Hall, she was surprised. But anyway, when they are getting the money paid, so there is no objection. The arrival of a stranger at an inn in winter was in any case an unusual event. A stranger of such uncommon appearance set all tongues wagging. Now, there were 2 reasons of being unusual. One thing that all of them they were talking that in this winter, There is a person who is hiring the rooms. And second thing was that the guest who has come, his appearance is also very strange. He's a strange looking man. So his strange looking experience had made everyone's tongue wagging. Everyone's tongue wagging, meaning they all had been talking and discussing about the same. Mrs. Hall, the landlord's wife, she made every effort to be friendly. She is a very friendly woman. She is friendly with the guest. So she tried to be friendly with Griffin also, but Griffin, he had avoided talking to Mrs. Hall. Why do you think he had avoided talking to her?
Because of his unusual appearance.
Right, because of his unusual appearance, because of his invisible existence. He was afraid he should not be caught, right? And rather, he just in order to avoid Mrs. Hall, he told Mrs. Hall very friendly that he had come to Iping for solitude, meaning for loneliness, for being alone, for peace. So he does not want to be disturbed when he is at home. And then he thought that they may raise any suspicion about his face as it had been covered with the bandages. So, in order to avoid the suspicion, what he did, he told her that I had an accident because of which my face has been affected. That's why I am putting lot many bandages on my face. Is that clear? So he had been able to convince Mrs. Hall. Now, Mrs. Hall was satisfied that her guest was an eccentric scientist, a strange scientist, a unique kind of, entirely different one. And then also, she thought that she should not have unnecessary suspicion, or she should not try to intervene because the man has already paid in advance. But you see, Anmol, Griffin had no money. How did he pay in advance?
Stolen money
Stolen money from where?
and from shop which he had stayed.
From the theater show, right? He had, you see that he had stolen the money from the shopkeeper, and that money he had paid here in advance. Now, when Mrs. Hall is getting the money, why should she have any objection? This is something very practical. Mrs. Hall was prepared to excuse his strange habits and irritable temper. Irritable temper, temper is the mood, nature. So anyway, Mrs. Hall, she did not mind if he had a strange personality, a strange habit, or very irritable, short-tempered man. But the stolen money did not last long. And presently, Griffin had to admit that he had no more ready cash. Now his money had finished because this money he had stolen. And he wanted to prolong his stay in that inn, but he had no money to pay. So he had told Mrs. Hall, he had admitted that at present he does not have any money, but he pretended, he lied that he is quite hopeful that soon he would get some money by means of check and then he would pay. So he had given this hope to Mrs. Hall that if he gives this hope, then Mrs. Hall would not object to his stay there for long, and she would rather allow him to stay there. Right? Now, shortly afterwards, a curious episode occurred. Now, after that, something very curious, something very strange happened. Very early in the morning, a clergyman and his wife were awakened by noises in the study. Clergyman is the priest of the church. Now, this unusual event had happened in the clergyman's house. It was early in the morning. Both the clergyman and his wife, they were asleep. But they soon woke up because they had heard some noises in their study. Creeping downstairs, they heard the chink of money being taken from the clergyman's desk. They went downstairs to see. They went downstairs towards the study to see what kind of sound is this. As they went to the study, they heard the chink of money. Chink of money is sound of the coins, sound of metal. So here it is sound of coins. Clergyman had left some money in his desk, right? And he could hear that somebody was collecting the coins from the desk without making any noise. With a poker grasped firmly in his hand, the clergyman flung open the door. The clergyman picked up a poker. Poker is like a screwdriver, जिसको हम पेचकस कहते हैं ना, right? He
Yes, ma'am.
picked up that poker firmly and pointing it towards the door, he went and he soon opened the door of his study and he shouted, "Surrender!" Surrender meaning give up. You must hand yourself over to me. This is what he said. Do you think he would find someone there?
Ma'am, no.
No. He is there, but clergyman would not be able to see. Right? He is there, but he would not be able to see. So according to him, there would be none, but there would be someone. Though there would be none, yet there would be someone. Why? He could not see anyone, but he could hear the sound of collecting the coins. That means there is someone, but when he opens the door, he does not find anyone. What is it actually? Griffin turned invisible. Right? Yes. Carry on, please.
To his amazement, he realized that the room appeared to be empty. He and his wife looked under the desk and behind the curtains and even up the chimney. Wasn't a sign of anybody. Yet the desk has been opened and the housekeeping money was missing.
Yes, they were astonished. They were really astonished. They were surprised. Why? Because they had seen that the money was missing, the drawer was opened, but the room was empty, meaning there was no one in the room. They had checked everywhere. They had checked everywhere. They have checked under the desk, behind the curtains, chimney, in every nook and corner of the house. The money was missing, the desk was lying open, but the man who had done it was not seen. According to them, was not there. Yes.
Extraordinary affair. The clergyman kept saying for the rest of the day, but it was not as extraordinary as the behavior of Mrs. Hall's furniture a little later that morning.
Yes, clergyman kept on saying extraordinary, extraordinary, unusual, very strange. Very strange has happened. I could see the money being stolen. I could see the desk lying opened. I could see the money missing, but I could not see anybody doing it. So it was extremely strange. But the writer says it was not as strange as the behavior of Mrs. Hall's furniture. Little later, after some time, the same morning, when they went to Mrs. Hall's room, what happened there? The furniture's movement had surprised everyone, and they had concluded that this was more extraordinary than what had happened in clergyman's study. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, carry on, please.
The landlord and his wife were up very early and were surprised to see the scientist's door wide open. Usually it was shut and locked, and he was furious if anyone entered his room. The opportunity seemed too good to be missed. They peeped round the door, saw nobody, and decided to investigate. The bedclothes were cold, showing that the scientist must have been up some time. And stranger still, the clothes and bandages that he always wore were lying about the room.
Yes. Now the landlord and his wife, Mr. Hall and Mrs. Hall, they woke up early that day in the morning, and when they came out, they were surprised to see that the scientist's door was opened. The room that was hired by him, its door was opened. Why they were surprised to find the door open? Because usually that door was always closed, because the scientist Griffin, he would not like anyone to peep in. He would not like anyone to enter his room. If anybody tried it, he would become angry. So now when the room was opened, Mrs. Hall must have thought, oh, it's a good chance. I must go. I should not miss. I should go and peep into the room. So she went. Both of them, they went. They peeped around the door. They just peeped into the door. And what they found? Nobody. They could not see anybody. And then they thought that they should search. When they surveyed the room, what they found, that bed linen, it was cold. It was cold, meaning for long, nobody had slept on the bed, right? So do you think they are right in this conclusion that nobody had slept on their bed?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Where was Griffin if he did not sleep on the bed? Griffin had been to the clergyman's study. Now do you understand that the money is missing from clergyman's study? And who stole that money?
Griffin.
Griffin stole that money. The bedclothes were cold, showing that the scientist must have been up for some time. Anyway, the Halls thought that maybe that the scientist must not be lying on his bed for some time. But sooner, what else do they find, which is stranger rather, what? That his clothes and the bandages that he had put on his face, they were lying about the room. He was not wearing the bandages, he was not wearing those clothes. So now you see that he was very smart. He was very smart because he was going to steal the money from clergyman's desk. So he had removed all these so that he could not be seen. So when he wanted his own self motive, then he would make himself invisible. And that's how he had been befooling the people. I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, carry on, please.
All of a sudden, Mrs. Hall heard a sniff close to her ear. A moment later, the head on the bedpost leaped up and
Leapt up, leapt
leapt
up.
up and dashed itself into her face. Then the bedroom chair became alive. Springing into the air, it charged straight at her legs foremost. As she and her husband turned away in terror, the extraordinary chair pushed them both out of the room and then appeared to slam and lock the door after them. Mrs. Hall almost fell down the stairs in hysterics. She was convinced that the room was haunted by spirits and that the stranger had somehow caused these to enter into her furniture. The poor mother used to sit in that chair. She mourned, to think it should rise up against me now.
Yes. Now what happened? Mrs. Hall. When she was in the room, surveying everything, found the cloths on the bed, the bandages there, but the bed was cold, meaning she did not find Mr. Griffin anywhere. At the same time, all of a sudden, she heard as if somebody was sniffing close to her ear. Who was that? Griffin. But Griffin was invisible at that time. A moment later, what happened? The hat on the bedpost leapt up. The hat, the man was not wearing hat now. And the hat just moved from there. The hat cannot move by itself. Of course, it was moved by Griffin. But the halls could not see Griffin. So they thought that the hat had been jumping by itself. The hat dashed itself into her face. The hat did not dash itself into her face. In fact, Griffin had hit Mrs. Hall's face with the hat. Then the bedroom chair became alive. The bedroom chair became alive. The bedroom chairs, they were moving. He had been jumping around on the furniture. With his touch, all these furniture, the pieces of furniture, they would move. They would become active, which Halls did not know, they could not understand, and they were afraid. They were furious as well as frightened that there is some spirit in the house, that everything is moving by itself. Springing into the air, it charged straight at her, legs foremost. The chairs, they just clashed with her legs. As she and her husband turned away in terror, the extraordinary chair pushed them both out of the room. The chair pushed the Halls out of the room. Griffin, in fact, had pushed the chair, pushing the Halls out of the room. And Halls thought that the chair had been pushing them. But this was actually Griffin who was pushing them out. But Griffin had become invisible, so they could not see, because he was naked at that time. He was not wearing clothes. And then appeared to slam and lock the door after them. As the Halls had come out of the room, the door slammed with a bang and it was locked. Of course, locked by Mr. Griffin. Mrs. Hall almost fell down the stairs in hysterics. Hysterics is an extreme situation of emotions. When you are extremely happy and non-stop you are laughing louder, that is also hysterical. When you are extremely afraid, extremely frightened, then also you cry, you scream out of fear. That is also hysterics. So Mrs. Hall, she almost fell down the stairs and she was quite frightened at that time. She was very much scared because everything that she found in her room, that was quite strange and unusual. Anyway, she had been convinced, she thought definitely there are some spirits in the room. The house is being haunted by some spirits. The house is being haunted by a ghost, right? And that the stranger had somehow caused these to enter into her furniture. And perhaps the stranger who had hired that room, he had allowed that spirit to enter the room and enter the furniture. That's why the furniture is moving itself. My poor mother used to sit in that chair. She moaned. She said with grief, she said sadly, "Oh my God, this extraordinary chair which had pushed us out, my mother used to sit on this chair. To think it should rise up against me now." She said, "It's very poor to think that this chair is rising against me, this chair is pushing me out, whereas this chair is being used by my mother. So she is concerned about her mother now. The feeling among the neighbors was that the trouble was caused by witchcraft. Witchcraft. Witchcraft is, do you know witchcraft?
No, ma'am.
Witchcraft is black magic. The spirits that haunt, the ghost, black magic, right? So the neighbors, when they got to know about it, they had been discussing and they felt that all this was happening because of a black magic, because of some spirits, the presence of some spirits. But witchcraft or not, when news of the burglary at the clergyman's home became known, the strange scientist was strongly suspected of having a hand in it. But when the news of the theft at clergyman's desk, at clergyman's study, when it was discovered, it spread all around Epping. Then everybody suspected this stranger, Griffin only. And suspicion had grown stronger when he suddenly produced some ready cash, though he had admitted not long before that he had no money. You remember that he had told Mrs. Hall that he does not have the money, but he is waiting for some check to arrive,
Yes, ma'am.
right? And now he was giving that money in cash. And the cash had been missing from the clergyman's study. So the people were sure that definitely that clergyman's money had been stolen by this strange scientist only. Because just a day before or 2 days before, he said he had no money. Then how could he produce the money? Because he told Mrs. Hall that he would give check. But now he was giving cash. How did he get the cash? That time ATMs were not available, right? The village constable was secretly sent for. The matter had been reported at the police station, and the village constable, he had been sent there. Instead of waiting for the constable, Mrs. Hall went to the scientist, who had somehow mysteriously appeared from his empty bedroom. She went to the scientist. By then, the scientist had appeared in the bedroom. Now, how do you think he appeared in the bedroom? Can you make out? Can you guess?
Ma'am, he is wearing clothes.
Yes. You remember that with the help of the chair, he pushed the holes out of the room
Yes, ma'am.
and he locked it.
Yes, ma'am.
And why he locked it? That is to dress up himself. In the meantime, he dressed up himself and then he appeared. I want to know what you have been doing to my chair upstairs, she demanded. Mrs. Hall is the landlady. She has all right to know. So she asked him, you please tell me, what have you been doing with my chairs? Why you had been banging them? Why you had been throwing them? Why the chairs had been moving? And I want to know how it is you came out of an empty room and how you entered a locked room. She said, this is something very strange. The room was empty. When I left the room, there was nobody in the room. And how did you appear? And when I left the room had been locked. So how did you make an entry in a locked room? So all these things, that the money, he said he had no money, but he had been giving the money in cash. The room was empty, there was no one, and yet the man appears there. The room was locked and the man was there. So how did he make an entry? All these things, all these very facts had been raising suspicion. Do you think Griffin would give an answer?
No.
He had no answer to give. The scientist was always quick-tempered, short-tempered. He would get angry very easily. And now he became furious. Now he became very angry. You don't understand who or what I am, he shouted. Very well, I'll show you. He got angry. He thought he would be caught. Anyway, he knew that he would not be caught. He can easily escape. So he shouted at the woman, telling her, I will show you who I am. You want to know? I will show you who I am. And then what he did? He threw off bandages, whiskers, spectacles, and even nose. It took him only a minute to do this. The horrified people in the bar found themselves staring at a headless man. Soon he started removing his bandages, whiskers, nose, that artificial nose, and spectacles. And what happened? He had become headless because his head was actually not visible. He had made it visible using those bandages and accessories. So now he had become a headless man. And the people, they were frightened, they were scared to see him, that the man has no head. Mr. Jeffers, the constable, now arrived and was quite surprised to find that he had to arrest a man without a head. Now the constable, he reached there to arrest him, but to his surprise, what he found, that he had to arrest a man who was headless. But Jeffers was not easily prevented from doing his duty. If a magistrate's warrant ordered a person's arrest, then that person had to be arrested with or without his head. It was not easy for Mr. Jeffers to do his duty. Why? Because if he had the magistrate's warrant, arrest warrant, then he could catch him whether he had a head or he did not have a head. Right? But he had that warrant. There followed a remarkable scene as the policeman tried to get hold of a man who was becoming more and more invisible as he threw off one garment after another. Mr. Jeffers, he had the arrest warrant. As he came close to him to hold him, to arrest him, what happened? The man had becoming more and more invisible. Why? Because one by one, he had been removing his clothes, and the more he removed his clothes, the more he had become invisible. Right? Finally, a shirt was left. He had thrown that too. And the poor constable found himself struggling with someone he could not see at all. And the poor constable, he could not help it because Griffin has turned invisible and he could not arrest an invisible man, the man whom he cannot see. The people tried to help him. They tried to help him. They tried to hold him. But whosoever had made an effort was hit by Griffin, who was invisible. And the people were confused. They did not know where they were getting these blows from, who had been hitting them. Because in actually they could not see anyone. In the end, Jeffers was knocked unconscious as he made a last attempt to hold on to the unseen scientist. He made one last attempt, but he could not arrest the scientist. This made him so disappointed, so disturbed, he became unconscious. There were nervous, excited cries of hold him, but this was easier said than done. Everyone had been trying to tell each other, hold him, hold that man, but it was not as easy to do as to say. It is easy to say, but it was very difficult to do. Griffin had shaken himself free, and no one knew where to lay hands on him. Griffin had freed himself by becoming invisible. He has escaped, and no one knew how to hold him, how to catch him, and they could not catch him. right? So
Yes,
the
ma'am.
main message of the story is whatever you do, you have some moral responsibility, some social responsibility also. So this is what our quest to achieve something we satisfy. But we are not doing justice to the society. We are not doing justice to the people around. We are not just doing justice to the race of humans, right?
Yes,
We'll go
ma'am.
to the questions. If any problem in the questions, you will ask me.